Hi, good morning, John here. And this video I will cover our 2022 update on all our items. So our FIT payments in total gas bill, total electric bill, total amount of solar generation, house usage, cars, yada yada yada. First off the bat, apologies for my absence. A few people have reached out to see if I'm okay, which I appreciate very much, thank you. Lots happened basically. So elderly parents, medical procedures nearer to home, not for me, for my wife. Just loads of things have taken time and haven't given me the ability to record any new YouTube videos. So things are easing up and back to normal very, very soon. So this video is going to concentrate on the 2022 year, see what happened. And I thought I'd have a look at the Met Office to see what they did as their sort of summary for 2022. And as you can see here, a cold December concludes the warmest year on record for the UK. And yes, it was cold in December here in the UK, really sort of bucked the trend for 2022. There was a week or so, 10 days, when it was extremely cold, sort of -6 degrees centigrade overnight. This chart is their summary, which I really like, of Great Britain's monthly electricity stats. They do this month by month, but this is the total year. So you can see there the green element of wind, nuclear in brackets, because I don't think it's particularly green. Perhaps its performance is, but its output of the waste isn't. But that's another story. Similar with biomass, solar, hydro, storage. So it's good to see that, and we've certainly seen lots and lots of records being broken with wind power in the UK towards the end of 2022 and also into the early part of 2023. There we go, largest wind share ever, 64% on the 29th of January. Windiest month, February, 41%. Highest wind power and so on. So yeah, all good to see. Demand, and which was interesting as well to see, lowest and highest, which is sort of what you would expect in the middle of summer and the middle of winter. 15th of December will be one of those really cold days when it was a freezing all day. And you can see these stats real time as well. So there's a link there to the ESO app for Apple or Android, which is worth a download if you're interested in those things. And this is a tweet. I follow National Grid ESO on Twitter. So the final figures are in. This was on the 3rd of November. So yesterday, which would have been the 2nd of November, wind generated 2896 megawatt hours in the 12:30 settlement period. That's over half, 53% in capitals of all the GB's electricity. Overall, it was a very, very green day. It's 70% of the energy was zero carbon, nuclear, wind, hydro, solar and storage. So yay. This is the month by month view of that as well. So I said they do a monthly view and an annual view. And I put a post on my community tab on my YouTube channel saying that I was planning to do a 2022 year-end review on everything, and asked if there were any particular questions or anything they particularly wanted to know, and had a few responses to that, so I will include those in this data as we get to it. As a refresh, this is our system setup. There's also listed down in the description down below if you want to have a look at it in a little bit more detail, or obviously pause this video. In terms of an update on this, there are some minor changes happening in February, which I'll cover in an additional video. So let's have a look at our wind power side of things. Those that you follow us will know that we have a share in the Craig Faffa wind turbine in Wales. It's the first community-owned wind turbine in the UK. This is a jigsaw of it, which I purchased for £30, something to do over Christmas. It's actually really quite hard. We've probably done the easy bits, but the other bits are either sort of all green or all white around by the clouds and the grass. So we're getting on through it bit by bit. You can get it from the website here, from the Ripple Energy website. So this is the monthly generation for that wind turbine. Over the course of the year, it went live in the middle of, I think it was the 15th of March it went live. You can see there the month by month plot. The legend at the bottom, the P90, P75 and P50, were the forecast performance of the wind turbine. P50 being the most optimistic and P90 being the most pessimistic. And as you can see, in most cases it's either come close or beaten, being that the green line is the actual. So yeah, all good. Overall performance over the year has been very positive. I'm really pleased with that. That covers about 25% of our electricity usage. We have also invested in Kirk Hill, which is an 8 turbine setup, which should be live at the end of this year, all being well in terms of engineering and installation and commissioning. And that covers 75% of our electricity usage. So we should find that 100% of our electricity usage is covered by the 2 turbines, or the 2 shares in those turbines. This is the Kaifa monthly savings broken down course of the year, and you obviously see the windy months as you would expect. So this is our total savings to date, £204.59. That was the beginning of January, so that's for March through to December. Total generation for our particular share, as you can see there, is 2,122 kilowatt hours. So for this year, which starts from the 1st of March, the year 2 savings are a lot higher, so it's 27 pence per kilowatt hour this year, as opposed to 9.63 pence for the first year, so almost 3 times higher the savings will be. So typically they're saying that the average saving in the coming year will be around £780, as opposed to £270 for this year. So that's great news. So the first question I had from Digit Watts was a question of how the best solar day in December compared to the summer per hour production, as the day lengths wouldn't make it unreasonable to compare, which is absolutely true. And how much does the height of the sun affect the kilowatt hour per hour? And it's a really good question actually, so I thought I'd look into that in a little bit more detail. So this is a poll from the PhotoPills app, which is a photography app which allows you to position the sunrise and sunset and the zenith of the sun at any particular day and location around the world. So this is on the 21st of June 2022, so the longest day. And the sunrise is the sort of pale mustardy colour line at sort of 1:30 on the chart if you're looking at it as a clock face, and the sunset is at sort of 10 o'clock, the reddish line, I suspect. Colourblind doesn't really help you very much here, but the line on the left, and then the line going down to the bottom is peak sun in terms of its height. And you can see the little graph at the bottom there which shows you the travel of the sun in the sky in terms of its height. And then this is the chart which looks at the same, well, it's the month of June, but if you look at the 21st, the first top chart is the start and end of solar production. So the 21st, where are we? So it starts at 5:30 or 25 minutes past 5 in the morning, and it ends at 25 minutes past 8 in the evening. We have a peak generation of 5.8 kilowatts at 1 o'clock in the day, which corresponds neatly to the zenith on the previous PhotoPills screenshot. Marvellous, I love it when a plan comes together. So that gives you an indication of how much we can generate. And then this screenshot is from the same PhotoPills app, and this is for the shortest day of the year, the 21st of December 2022. You'll see the much shorter graph at the bottom. It's squashed up. Again, the main map there shows you the sunrise and sunset with the zenith still at 1 o'clock, and but a very much shorter period of time, and the sun is much lower in the sky, so the elevation is at 13 degrees, whereas let's just nip back to the other one. There we go. It was at 61 degrees elevation. So yeah, phenomenal difference in terms of the height, and you can see that on the little chart at the bottom. And then looking here, this is that same chart again, looking at the 21st. sunrise at 9:40, sunset at 15:25, and peak generation was 3,400 kilowatts at 12 o'clock, or 11:55. So a lot less peak generation. With the lower sun angle, you don't hit the same amount of performance, regardless to the fact that the days are shorter, but it's really the elevation of the sun which also has a massive impact. So there you go. I hope that answers your question. Yes, it has a massive impact. in short, it's probably half the power, if not 2/3 of the power. Oh yes, there's a shot out of our back bedroom window looking out. This is taken early morning with the sun just sort of rising, and doesn't actually get that much higher than that as it arcs across the sky from left to right. So this chart we'll see a couple of times in different variants, but this is the one I use to track the FIT payments, the feed-in tariff payments, and this is the annual solar generation actually for both arrays. So for 2022 we did 6.3 megawatt hours, which is the second highest, which is quite interesting really, considering we had 3 months with one array not actually working. So it would have been even a little bit higher than that had they both been working. The big jump from 2019 onwards is when we had the second array installed. So this is the feed-in tariff. We get that purely for the 4 kilowatt array. So thankfully that hasn't been impacted at all by the break on the system, which was one of the reasons why I've swapped across to a very simple string inverter on the second array now, rather than having optimizers. But again, more on that later in a separate video. So for 2022, we had a payment of £2,606.14, which, as you can see there, is our highest payment to date by sort of 60 odd quid. And that all gets invested back into new equipment in the house for green generation. This is the quarterly FIT payments over the years, and you can see a peak there in Q2 and Q3, which helped to give us the extra boost overall, certainly Q3. And they run from January to December in quarters in a normal 3-monthly blocks. So this is our view of the normal chart if you're familiar and watch my channel regularly. I didn't do monthly updates for November and December, so you can have a quick look there, 138 and 132 respectively. Comparing December 2022 to 21 and 20 is not too bad really, considering again we were just on one array. This is the combined of the 2 arrays, so again same data set, and just reconfirming what I've already said about 3 months without one array. I'm not going to go on about that anymore. I've moved on. This is taken from the Tesla Powerwall app. So for 2022 we were 60% self-powered, split between solar and the Powerwall equally at 30%, and then the remainder came from the grid. Time of use is probably not quite accurate really, because I swapped about with the tariff during the year, so I sort of really ignore that. But if you go down and have a look at savings, they reckon, so Tesla reckons, based on using the Powerwall and solar, we've saved £2,353 over the year. Not sure how accurate that is based on Go Faster. And I'm not sure, perhaps anybody will know this, if you update your tariff midway through the year, does that filter back through the first part of the year where you're on different tariff rates, or does it remain and keep the part of the year with the earlier tariff and then just build the accumulative with a new tariff? I'm not sure it's that clever, but I could be wrong. Solar offset down the bottom there, 49% offset, energy offset by solar production, so 6.7 megawatt hours. As you probably spotted, my records, which come straight from the generation meter, show 6.3, which is actually more accurate. So a little bit of variance there, but not too much. And quite a lot of house usage this year, 13.4 megawatt hours. And if we compare that to last year, similar self-powered, 1% difference. A little bit more solar, a little less Powerwall, and that'll probably be down to having 3 months without a solar array. And down at the bottom, offset is 53% in 2021, but less home usage by a megawatt hour, which is quite significant. Solar production very much the same. So this is the rest of the annual summary available in the Tesla Powerwall app. So total house usage over the course of the year, bringing in where all that goes or comes from. So obviously yellow is solar, green is from the Powerwall, and the grey is from the grid. This is our total in and out summary. So 6.3, as you already know, for total solar for the year. Battery in and battery out there, 6.4 and 4.0. House, or grid in, sorry, is 7.7 or 7.8, and then grid out is 2 megawatt hours. And this is it compared over the course of the last 4 years. For a bit of comparison, you can see the grid in is a lot more this year, mainly because with the house used more. But yeah, interesting to see and to look at and compare. This again is from the Powerwall, which is the summary data you just looked at, just in a slightly different format, but then mapped over the last 4 years. So total home usage, total solar generation, total from and to the Powerwall, total from the grid, total to the grid. So 2,000 kilowatt hours. I think I said 2 megawatts earlier on, which to the grid, which is obviously wrong. That'll be a lot, wouldn't it? So 2,000 kilowatt hours out to the grid. But even so, be hopefully to reduce that a bit more this year. And this is a breakdown of the self-power between those 4 years again. Offset and self-power the Powerwall, and self-power during peak and off-peak. And those seem to have dropped away for 2022. I'm not really sure why in the app, so they're not recorded there. But anyhow, I don't really look at them too much, so I'm not really too worried about it. Question that came in from Salibaba: have you been finding yourself using more electricity than gas due to the cost of gas being probably more expensive than night stored electricity? In short, yes. So great question, and I suspect a lot of people have made this switch as well. We turned off our gas hot water heating, so domestic hot water. We don't use gas. We haven't used gas to heat our hot water since sort of October time, in the end of 2022. So as soon as the sun died, because generally we have an eddi which we use to heat our hot water from surplus solar. When there wasn't enough solar to do that, we then swapped across to heating the hot water in the early hours of the morning. So this is our total monthly electricity usage in kilowatt hours over the course of the year, comparing 2021 to 2022. And you can see it's fairly straightforward really. There's a little bit more usage in January and February in electricity, certainly a lot more in September. That was because in last September we were on holiday in 2021 for 2 weeks, and this September we weren't. Not sure what happened in October, because nothing specifically happened, but obviously we used a lot more power there. This is the costs. Yeah, it's sort of fairly comparable really. There's not a massive hike, mainly because we're using the cheaper off-peak rate for the majority of our electricity. That's charging the Powerwall in the colder months when there's not enough solar, and then we use that almost all day to run the house, so we don't actually pull a lot from the grid during peak, which tends to keep the prices down. With the gas, it's a slightly different picture, which goes back to the question that Salibaba just asked. Gas usage has been going up at the beginning of the year, between 2021 to 2022 for January and February, and then I made the decision over the summer not to use gas to heat our hot water, and also turn the gas boiler down to number 1, which is its lowest setting. It's a non-condensing boiler. It's a 20-year-old boiler, 75% efficient, so it's not the best in the world. and will be swapped out this year. More of that in another video. As you can see there, September and October went fairly well, as did November. A lot less gas usage, but December we did use more gas than previous December, and that was mainly due to that sort of 10-day really cold period where we had a lot colder temperatures than we did in December 2021. But just look at those two figures there. It's not a massive amount more gas being used in December, but the next chart will show you the price, and the price there in December is 3 times the price, well, almost 3 times the price for what is almost the same gas usage. So you can see how much our gas has changed in price. We swapped tariff in October. Yeah, it's really impacted us when we're using a lot of gas. This is a summary of 2022 gas costs and usage and electricity costs and usage. You can see there the amounts, and this is the raw data if you want to look at it in a little bit more detail. Perhaps the most interesting thing to have a look at is over on the right hand side there, which is our tariff details and when it changed. So the 4th of August there, 2022, we moved to the new rate of 7.85 pence for the 5-hour slot on the Go Faster, and the day rate of 32.79, standing charge of 42.36, whereas before we were on 5.24 during the cheap rate and 14.6 pence during the rest of the day. Standing charge I think was about 25 pence from memory. I don't know why I haven't recorded it there. 22 pence, something like that, 22, 25 pence. But yeah, considerably more expensive. Gas, again, the raw data changes there on the gas tariff. Oh, it was the 15th of September, we moved across from the flexible octopus tariff, which was a standing charge of 26.92 pence per day and a 6.93 pence per kilowatt hour, to a tracker rate which changes every day with a peak maximum cap of 16 pence per kilowatt hour. I'll put the averages there across the billing period so you can see there range anywhere between 4.27 pence, so it was cheaper than the previous rate, up to 9.94, where we actually got the energy price guarantee from the government there for a number of days because it went above the cap. Yeah, standing charge 25 pence 0.92. So gas is getting a lot more expensive, as everyone is undoubtedly aware. This is the eddi, which, as I've already mentioned, heats our hot water. So over the course of the year, it's diverted 438 kilowatt hours of solar to heat our hot water. Savings of £28.59 over the course of the year, based on our off-peak costs running between 5.5 and then going up to 8.5. This is the cars in the detail. I'll just pick out a few highlights from here. One of them is the amount of home charging. So 37% of our charging at home was on solar, which is 163 kilowatt hours, which is nice to see. The Tesla has done almost 11,000 miles over the course of the year, and the Renault Zoe, which we've had for a year as well now because it arrived early January, and that's done 4,287 miles. Totals right at the end there. Model 3 costs per mile is 0.01, and the Zoe costs per mile, cost of pounds per mile, is 0.18. So very economical motoring. What I haven't factored in there, these are just charging costs. What I haven't factored in there is additional costs which we incurred in the cars over the course of the year. They're listed here. So the Tesla had 4 new tyres, 4 new Michelin and Pilot Sports, which was £620.72, and that was with the discount. I got them from Costco, which they had a promotion running on them, so they were cheaper. Plus Michelin were also doing a £100 discount for 4 tyres as well, so did quite well out of that. Tesla had an annual service, which I'll detail in a little bit for you, £394, as did the Zoe, £216. That also had 2 new tyres, £180 there. I even treated both cars to brand new wipers, so posh Bosch ones on the Zoe, and then Tesla wipers direct from Tesla, so giving us a total of £1,486 spent on the cars. And we had the cars serviced by Cleveley Auto Mobile Service. They came and did both cars on the day. Really good service, can thoroughly recommend it. And the Tesla had a full service, full inspection. Also had all the brakes lubricated, stripped, inspected, cleaned, etc. And the technician advised on a few things. There was a sensor in the front which had come loose. The bolt had undone, completely disappeared, and this little sensor was flapping around. So I found a new bolt and we put that in. The door seals at the bottom of the doors, passenger side and offside, were coming away, so I need to stick those back on. Front and rear disc pads were corroded on the inner surfaces. The outer ones were fine, actually. The inner ones, and he was saying that's quite common on the performance model. So what I've done is dropped the regeneration settings on the braking, so there's less available, which means I have to use the brake a bit more just to keep those from corroding any further, just to get a bit of brake pad wear and shine up the discs. The near side front tyre was getting low on the inner edge, and worsely the offside front tyre was actually worn to the cords on the inner edge and needs replacing. I ordered new tyres that same day. Rear tyres were fine. So that's that one. On the Zoe, it was a major service and a few things spotted by the technician. Slight damage on the near side front bumper corner, which is fine, they've had that since we've got it. The offside front tyre was perished, and the near side front tyre was getting low, so again, hence 2 new front tyres, and the front discs starting to corrode on their inner surfaces. So again, been a bit more brake pedal usage on that to keep them from getting any worse. Also, these are the tyres from Costco, just the invoice there for clarity. So you can see there the savings that Costco were doing was £133 discount because of the promotion they were doing, and then there was also the £100 cashback from Michelin, so £233 saved by ordering those tyres at that particular point. And I think that about covers it. So if there's any questions, give us a shout, drop them down in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and I will see you on future updates. All right, take care. Bye.